Welcome to Hotline TV. I'm Josh Kraushar.
And I'm Reed Wilson. Josh, on Tuesday, primaries around the country produced some surprising results, none bigger than Christine O'Donnell's victory over longtime Congressman Mike Castle in Delaware. Christine O'Donnell, fueled by the Tea Party movement. Josh, does this prove that the Tea Party is now in control of the Republican Party?
What it means is that the NRSC doesn't learn from their mistakes. And in every race over the past year, seven at least, if not more, national Republican leaders have backed the wrong horse. They've backed the horse against the Tea Party, whether you're talking about Kentucky against Rand Paul, or whether you're talking about other races, Florida, where they went to the mat for Charlie Crist, even though Marco Rubio was an up-and-coming Senate prospect and had a real bright future ahead of him. They haven't learned from their lessons, and now they made the right decision to get behind Mike Castle. He certainly is the only Republican that could win in Delaware, and they now are worried that they are giving away, they're rightly worried that they're giving away this seat. But the fact that they didn't detect this anti-establishment, angry Tea Party movement, and they didn't learn from the losses in past primaries means it's not a good night for John Cornyn, and it's a real question of whether they understand the movement well enough to help them in November.
Josh, it's no surprise at all that I completely and totally disagree with you. This is a further sign that the Tea Party movement is growing and about to subsume what we know of as the Republican Party. Take a look across the country. What we're really seeing is the shrinking of the Republican tent. In the time when they're about minorities, rather about being in the minority status and trying to grow into a majority, they're talking about kicking out Republicans in name only across the country. Even Mark Kirk, a guy who won his primary, faced some heat from the right. Everybody from, what was her name in Nevada? Sue Loudon in Nevada, Mike Castle in Delaware, Trey Grayson in Kentucky, who was labeled as a moderate because he said he looked forward to working with President Obama as a fellow elected office holder in Kentucky. That was his sin. Bob Bennett kicked out for working with Ron Wyden on a bill that didn't even come to the floor of the Senate. I mean, look, this is the further ideological purification of the Republican Party. That's what the Tea Party movement is about right now. They have all the power on their side. They've done everything they possibly can and have succeeded in doing so in kicking out all the moderates. This will work well in 2010. It will not work well in 2016 when a lot of these candidates are up for re-election. Take a look at 1980. 6 senators elected in the Reagan landslide in 1980 lost their seats in 86. That's what we're seeing today, Josh.
Well, but look ahead to 2012, and the big question is this environment going to last until 2012? And despite all of the candidates that are usually too conservative, usually too far to the right to win a general election, Delaware is really the only race where they've just written it off. Where Nevada is a real problem. Sue Loudon is, or rather, Sharon Angle's a real problem there. But that's a toss-up race. Kentucky also made that race more competitive. But in most of the races, and you can argue in Wisconsin and in Florida, they actually have the better Republican candidates. The Tea Party candidates ended up being more electable. The big question is this anti-Washington, anti-politician, this anger that the Tea Party movement is getting, is it going to last in 2012, and is it going to affect the president's re-election? And more importantly, is it going to affect the Republican presidential primary? Is there going to be a Jim DeMint type that runs in the presidential primary field? You saw Mitt Romney immediately endorse Christine O'Donnell. Look, that's a notable move there.
It certainly is going to impact the 2012 race in some way. It's probably going to impact the White House race more than it will the Senate landscape. But the bottom line, you got to it earlier, across the country, all these Tea Party candidates have simply made these races that should be in the bag for Republicans more competitive. That's all the time we have for today. I'm Reed Wilson.
And I'm Josh Kraushar. We'll see you next week on Hotline TV.